Greetings. By virtue of your presence watching this video today, I want you to know that we consider you to be an extended member of our family at Unity in Linwood. We believe that you are an individualized expression of that one creative impetus which stands behind all life, and as such we celebrate the uniqueness which you are, and we celebrate our unity with you. We are glad you're with us.
Okay, let me just look at you. Yeah. What a treat. I'm so grateful to be back here. This is a fabulous spiritual community and very dear to my heart. Following that beautiful music that calls us to that experience of love, let's enter into our time of prayer and meditation together. You would join me by beginning as we turn our attention within. If you would, touch your heart and just gently pretend to breathe through the heart as we bring our attention down to this point of connection with our spiritual self, with this nature of our being that is love. This connection through which love flows. Mother, Father, God, as we open to know you more deeply, as we enter in and continue this beautiful experience of gratitude and thanksgiving, we feel your love here and now. And we let that love flow through our hearts to all those who are dear to us. We enfold them and bless them with this love. We know that it touches and lifts them, for we are one. We are one in this divine presence that unites us and flows freely between us. And with our hearts open, we take this moment to invite this love to touch each of us at depth, to fill ourselves with its vibrant energy of wholeness, to touch our minds with wisdom and understanding, to direct us to fulfill the sacred purposes for which each of us came into this life experience. And this love takes us forward in harmony and oneness with all that is before us in our lives now. Mother, Father, God, we rest for a moment in the sacred love of your presence, deeper than thought, deeper than words, deeper than feeling. We rest at one with you in sacred silence. infinite love. Mother, Father, God, as you fill our hearts, our beings, our families. So from this sacred community, we now send this love forth. We send it to the places where we live and we work. These communities in which we live. For it flows forth with blessing, healing, peace. This love flows forth from our hearts and across this beautiful part of our country. It fills our country with its grace, healing, dissolving our fears and bringing forth our great compassion and wisdom. It blesses all in this world. And we know that we are joined by the hearts of people of all paths as we share this blessing in synagogues, mosques, temples, churches, those who gather on the hillsides, and this becomes a part of that love flowing through families. And we send this love so that it moves about the earth, to bless the earth and to connect with the heart of every single person in the earth. For beloved presence, you are that love in every heart. And in this love, we are one. Divine love flows through my heart, enfolding and blessing the world. Divine love flows through my heart, enfolding and blessing the world. Please join me. Divine love flows through my heart, enfolding and blessing the world. And once again, divine love flows through my heart, enfolding and blessing the world. And for this love and our oneness in it and its oneness in us, we are so grateful. Amen. Thank you. Well, I've been enjoying however that divine conspiracy took place that made sure every year we get back to gratitude and being grateful and being thankful. Isn't that a wonderful thing? And you know what? It doesn't matter at all what your belief system is. You get into gratitude and things just change. And the truth is there's a marvelous reason for that. The feeling of gratitude, of thankfulness, of appreciation is a feeling of the heart. And it is one of the elements that we use to open the heart to connect with our own spiritual nature. Let me share an example with you. My son Peter lives in L.A., and he and his wife Julia have been there a while and had their some goals for their family, and one was to have a little income expansion. And Julia had been doing temp work at a financial services company and was offered a permanent job and a good salary and, very exciting offer. But as Julia comes home and she's telling it to Peter, she's pointing out that there's a reason why that job is open. It seems to not serve anybody very long. The people are difficult to deal with. It's, structurally it doesn't work. There's just it's a very high stress experience. So here's this wonderful opportunity. She's not sure she should take it. And so she's worrying about, should I, shouldn't I, what'll happen, all those wonderful things the mind can worry about. And she not only has worry, but she begins to feel anxiety, fear. Have you had that experience? Yeah. And so she's going through this, and Peter begins to realize the tremendous stress and tension she's under. Now, fortunately, Peter knows what to do about that. When I spent my years at the Institute of Heart Math, Peter came and learned some of the science and skills that were there. So he knows how one can take and literally stop the experience of worry or anxiety within just a minute or two. It's not difficult to do. He knows how to do that, so he could help Julia do that. And then from there, one is able to call forth the very deepest levels of our wisdom. So whatever answer is there for Julia is available to her. Except for one thing. This wasn't the first time that Julia has been upset or worried about something. And Peter had tried before to suggest this way of working with things. And he learned he can be husband or teacher, but not both. And so it's very clear that as much as he has this wonderful knowledge, he doesn't get to use it. And so the result is Peter begins to feel powerless. Have you had somebody you really loved and they're in that struggle and they're worried or something or dealing with something very difficult and you can't do anything about it? And you're powerless and frustrated? And so as Peter is beginning to feel this angst himself, what happens is he suddenly realizes, wait a minute, now I'm the one who's upset. I know what to do about that. So he took, and his first step was just what we did a moment ago. He took and touched his heart. Because when we touch our heart, we begin to draw our awareness away from the brain's mechanism that is a part of what creates the anxiety. And so I pretend to breathe through the heart, which brings our attention and focuses it there. Then he took and he went into a very simple exercise. Took maybe a minute, maybe two, that activated his heart. Now, we know our heart's always working at doing its beating and circulating the blood. But one of the amazing discoveries, and it was some time ago, it really has been brought into the awareness and advanced by the research from the Heart Math Institute, is that there is a separate domain of intelligence, a deeper wisdom within us that we access through our heart. Now, Heart Math calls that heart intelligence. Okay, and they're scientific, so they try to not use those churchy words. Okay, but I've worked with them for many years, and they grant me a lot of latitude. It's our spiritual self. This change within the heart allows this connection with our spiritual self. So Peter was able to call on that spiritual self. As he went through that experience of opening the heart, what happens is the spiritual self begins to expand its presence in our consciousness. The result was he was no longer anxious. He wasn't worried. He wasn't upset. He wasn't feeling powerless. He was feeling centered and connected. And his feeling now was not anxiety for Julia. It was compassion and connection. That's a different world. But there's also the ability to call this wisdom forth. Because whatever happens in your life, your spiritual self is right there, ready and willing, should you happen to ask, to help us deal with it effectively. Because it's committed to helping us fulfill the purposes for which we came, the greater purposes and the moment-by-moment purposes. So Peter asked. He called forth this wisdom into his conscious awareness, and what he immediately realized was, you should ask Julia if you can hold her. So he did. He said, Julia, would you like to be held? She said, yes. So he just put his arms around her and just held her, and he could feel that change. You know, as the tension and that begins to leave, and she began to relax and breathe a little easier, and in a few minutes she said, thank you, I feel better. And thank you for not saying anything. Now his wisdom had given him that bit too, because he is his father's son, and that's liable to happen. So, what happens is we have the ability to connect with our spiritual self. Now, we can tell if we're connected with it or not. When we are connected, we feel a tremendous experience of peace, of clarity, of connection. When we're not connected, which there is a particular mechanisms within us that really disconnect us. Now, let me clarify connection a little bit. The Spirit is omnipresent. We can't get out of it. However, we can have it at completely different levels of our consciousness. That's our choice. That's part of this planet of choice that we're playing with. Okay, so the experience of connection brings the feeling of this harmony that exists within the spiritual nature. This disconnection is when we get into our worries and our anxieties and our blames and our frustrations and our upsets and those marvelous thought loops we do. You know, where you keep going over the conversation. Now, you may not have said it in the first place, and you would have been so brilliant had you done it the way you... And you keep going over it. Now, it doesn't get better, and it doesn't change anything, but, you know, it might wake you up again in the middle of the night so you can go over it again. Okay, that's not connection. Anybody have some of those could show up at times? Okay, so I just want to make sure we're relevant here. What happens is when you decided, okay, you're the spiritual being. Okay, you're a child of God. We know that. I mean, that's just Unity 101. We're a spiritual being, we're a child of God, and you chose to incarnate into this physical form, to explore the third dimension with this marvelous humanist thing. Okay, and you had great wisdom. You were connected with infinite wisdom when you did that. But when you came into this body thing, okay, you accepted its way of connecting to the third dimension. We have an interpreter up here called our brain. And it takes data that comes in and it figures out, okay, lots of things. And one thing that it figures out, which isn't very accurate, is, well, we're separate. You're there and I'm here. And it doesn't see anything connecting us. And that's not true. But it's third dimensional. It's a third dimensional interpreter. You are a lot more than a third dimensional being. But as long as this default mechanism is operating, we can't see that. There is a different wisdom within us. Interestingly enough, even science has identified that it exists, that it's measurable, it can describe the difference in how we experience it. And it has made very clear the access code. And that's what I really want to share with us today, because knowing how to connect with your spirit is one of the most meaningful and fulfilling parts of our spiritual journey, but of our life, period. So in how to do that, let me share it again in terms of an experience. We, many years before, when Peter was in, I think, the first year of high school, and our daughter Anna was in middle school, and it was my job to get the kids down from the house to the bus. We lived in the Santa Cruz Mountains, so we had one of those little windy roads through the redwoods to drive on. And we had an affirmation that we used every morning, again and again. It was, hurry up or you'll miss the bus. So you folks that have used affirmations know what we created. We showed up and the bus had already gone. And, it was after that, find your shoe, where's your homework, and all that sort of stuff that families go through. And now I've talked a number of times to kids about being ready and having their stuff so that this wouldn't happen. And now I'm at an absolutely impossible situation. I have to go on and be at work, and they have to get to school. So I thought of making them walk. It's 8 miles. And even though that was kind of a pleasant thought at the moment, I thought, no, that's really not going to work. And so finding myself, sometimes I go to the spiritual after I've exhausted every other possibility. And so I thought, well, what does my spiritual self have to say? So I went through these steps of connection. Again, the first, to just touch the heart. Begin that movement of awareness, pretending to breathe through the heart as begin to draw the energy into this area. And then to activate that connection. There are feelings that we experience through the heart. Those feelings cause a transformation of the entire human system. It is amazing, level after level after level of human transformation, measurable. Those feelings cause the heart to change its pattern. Those feelings, one of the easiest way to find that feeling, whenever you feel one of those feelings, and there's a breadth of them, with it is the feeling of fullness in your heart. One of the things that we experience at Thanksgiving is appreciation and gratitude. That's part of the heart feelings. When you remember those people that are such a treasure, those beautiful moments, doesn't your heart feel full? That literally causes a change within the patterns of the heart, changes the brain, changes system after system after system. And we have then connection. Because, again, HeartMath calls that heart intelligence, but what happens when that change takes place within our biophysical instrument is that the spiritual is then free to move forward into consciousness. So what I did was go to a memory. It's one of the easiest ways to get there. Memory of a moment when my heart was full. And I remember just being grateful for a time that we had a couple of days before. We were down by a creek there in the redwoods. We were just playing and laughing and enjoying the absolute beauty of that countryside. And just having a fabulous time as a family. In my heart, I just remembered, wow, I could feel that. And suddenly, I was no longer tense, upset, irritated. I was at peace. For those of you that have tried to get your kids out of the house in the morning, you know that's a miracle. I was at peace. Now, I still had an impossible decision before me, but from that place, you can access this wisdom of your spirit. And it always has a way to take you forward successfully. It didn't bring you into life to fail or into any experience, but to be a contributing part of a greater wholeness. So we can call that. So I asked for that direction. And it was very clear. I was suddenly aware I need to drive the kids to school. I can be late. Now, it's true, I had a meeting that was going to start in a few minutes. I was supposed to run it, but these are grown-up professional adults I was meeting with. They can exist successfully without me. I'm pretty good at showing up on time. I bet they aren't going to fire me. And then I was aware of something else. Because what happens with this intelligence, because we're no longer playing the you're there and I'm here game, we connect with the world around us. And in that place, I moved, instead of upset at my children, into compassion. And I realized how upset they were. They'd had their parents nagging them, and then what they were supposed to succeed at, they just failed miserably. Guilt, and all those things I've successfully taught them. And they had a very difficult day at school. Can you imagine what it would be like to go to high school, middle school at this time? And at this, we're in a different culture, a different time. It's a challenge. And what was important wasn't my punctuality. It was that they have a good day. So I could turn around and said, okay, I'm going to drive you. I would like for you to get there ready to have a good day at school. So I know you're upset. I'm going to put on some music as we drive along so you can relax, get ready for your day. Now, when we get home tonight, we need to talk about how to take care of this. Are you agreed? And they said yes. It's a simple, ordinary, everyday situation. But it's experienced from two completely different consciousnesses. One directed by my brain and how it functions by itself. The other directed by my spiritual self when I take the time to connect and invite it into directing my life. Spiritual connection. Simple. Start. Bring the attention here. Touch the heart. Pretend to breathe through the heart. It's just a wonderful point of shift. And then that memory of the moment when your heart was full. That gratitude we've been practicing over food and abundance and family and simplicity and beauty. And I'll tell you what that feeling is. It is the access code to your spiritual self. Not new. It's called love. Every feeling that fills your heart is a part of love. Appreciation, thanksgiving, compassion, care, joy, serenity. All of these are within this thing that we call love. And you can access them by that memory, spiritual connection. Now what happens is, after the second step, there is another step to call forth this spiritual presence into conscious awareness, its direction. because I don't have the time to go into that now. It is in the book, and it's something we're going to work on in the workshop, so you can do it. And it is specific, and it is very effective. So I would encourage you to go forth and let that part develop. But my goal here today was for us to understand spiritual connection itself, because that is really what we are trying as a nation to attune to on Thanksgiving. Okay, it's what we as individuals attune to when we take that moment. And we go to that feeling, not the thought. I've thought of many things I'm grateful for without feeling it. I remember when I had to write the thank you note to my grandmother for the bike. Now, I was really grateful for the bike, but not for writing the note. I was feeling, thoughts don't do it. Okay? The feelings of the heart. Now, not all feelings are feelings of the heart. Okay? If you're angry, it's not in your heart. You may sense it there, but it's caused by the way the brain processes. And we'll explore that this afternoon. Touch your heart. Let's just share together a feeling of thanksgiving, feeling of gratitude. Gratitude for this beautiful place, for the people that show up and support us on this spiritual journey, the people we have the honor to support, the love that flows through us, and that we get a chance to see in the beautiful beings around us. Somehow or other, that distance dissolves, and we're connected, because the truth is, we are one, and we are so loved. Bless you.
Thanks again for joining us. Please visit unityinlinwood.org for a preview of all upcoming classes, services, and events, and for an opportunity to make a gift to our community should you so choose. Thank you.